Hey, friend, welcome to Everyday Grace, a cozy corner for honest, faith filled conversations about living Catholic life in the real world. And I am so glad that you're here. Whether you're navigating your faith, chasing joy, learning to pray, or just figuring out life one step at a time, this is a space where we'll talk about it all with heart and with honesty and with the grace God gives us for today. So let's settle in and dive into the first episode. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you why I created Everyday Grace. I started a podcast, a YouTube channel, and an Instagram and TikTok because I know what it feels like to be in the middle of life's mess. I've dealt with a lot of grief, a ton of stress and anxiety. I have dealt with a lot of doubt, and there's a lot of ordinary days where everything just feels very heavy. I am also a marketing manager, so I have a lot of skill sets in marketing and podcasting and things like that that I wanted to use those skills for something good that means a lot to my heart. And honestly, I've spent a lot of time feeling like I didn't belong in a lot of perfect faith spaces. So I wanted to create a space for people like me, the people who are trying, people who doubted and continue to doubt sometimes, and people who are doing their best to live a Catholic life even when it's really hard. I also am doing this in memory of my grandfather. Today I'll be talking a lot about grief. And my grandpa was a devout Catholic. He really introduced me to our Catholic faith. I went to church with him every Sunday. And so this podcast and my work is going to be dedicated in his memory. And so I want Everyday Grace to be a place where we can talk about the real stuff, the grief, the anger, the prayers we're not sure God is hearing, and still come back to the truth that God's grace meets us right where we are. So if you've ever felt like you're not Catholic enough, you're not faithful enough, not joyful enough, this podcast is for you as we navigate the journey of faith together. And I just want to remind you that you are enough and God's grace is for you today, right here, right where you're at in your story. So, welcome to Everyday Grace. If you found yourself here, maybe you're carrying grief right now, maybe you're missing someone deeply, or maybe you're just trying to understand what this journey really feels like. Wherever you are, I just want you to know you are welcome here, and you are safe here, and you're definitely not alone. And so today, I want to talk about something that's really close to my heart and something that I've dealt with a lot in my life, and that is what no one tells you about grief. Recently, I hosted a session on grief at a conference, and this has been really heavy on my heart, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And I just want to talk about the parts of grief that people don't always talk about at the funeral or in the sympathy cards or in the how you are doing text messages, which are so thoughtful and needed as we process grief. But there's so much more that I want to bring to the surface. So that leads me to grief shows up in the smallest moments. You know, people often think grief only shows up on the big days, the birthdays, the holidays, the anniversaries. But no one really tells you that grief shows up in the smallest, quietest corners of your life. Today, I almost yelled for my grandfather, and he's been gone a long time. But I was going upstairs in our home where he lived, and I opened up the door, and there was something in my heart that just wanted to yell for grandpa, like I did so many times throughout my life. And that was just a small moment in my life where I was like, I really just miss my grandfather. But it could be things like seeing their favorite snack at the grocery store. It's hearing a song that they used to love when you're just driving. I recently lost my great great uncle George, who really took the grandfather spot for us when our grandpa died. And he always listened to an oldies channel, and I love oldies music. And the other day, I heard one of his favorite songs on the radio, and it just reminded me and took me back to when he would pick me and my siblings up, and we would have Sunday dinners, and he would drive us around because we loved rides, and he would always have that oldies channel on. So it just reminded me about him. And sometimes it's that empty chair at the table, and you really notice that their presence isn't there. It's reaching for your phone to call them before you remember that they are now gone. Recently on Uncle George, I talk to him almost every day. I still have voicemails that I listen to and I just want to hear his voice. And I had an achievement at work that I wanted to talk to him about because he was always so proud of me. And Uncle George was the best hype man. And I just wanted to call him. And I actually did dial his number. And when I dialed his number, it didn't ring because the phone's now off since he's passed. And I remember just wanting so bad for him to answer the phone like he did many times before. So grief does show up in those smallest moments. And sometimes it doesn't have to be big, heavy moments that break you. It's those soft ones, like I just mentioned. But it's in those moments where I have to stop and remember that God is closest when we suffer. He's in that ache. He's in the memory that I remember. He's in the tears that fall when no one's watching. And lately, I've been really struggling with missing my grandfather. And I ask myself often, why is that happening? Because I was young when he passed. But I think it's because I've never gotten to experience having him in my life as an adult. So now I'm grieving kind of the unknown, which in my session we talked a lot about is grieving the unknown. That's a part of grief. That's a cycle of grief too. But another thing is grief doesn't end, it transforms. And that's something no one really tells you, that grief doesn't end and it doesn't have an expiration date. So lately, when I've been thinking, why am I missing my grandpa so much? Why am I calling out for him when he's been gone almost 15 years? And it's because grief does not have an expiration date. He was a big part of my life. He lived with us at our home. I saw him every day. He was kind of a bonus parent. So, of course, those 10 years that he was in my life left a lasting impact on me, and it's going to be with me the rest of my life. So, you just don't wake up one day and find that grief is gone. Instead, it changes, it softens, it weaves itself into your life. It becomes a part of you. It's like a scar or like a stone that's heavy in your pocket, and you just learn to carry it. And some days you don't notice it. Some days it feels like the heaviest thing in the world, but it's still there. And as Catholics, we don't just carry grief alone, we carry it with Christ. We carry it with Mary, who knows what it's like to lose someone she loves very much. And we carry it with the saints and the angels who remind us that life is not ended, it is changed. In the communion of saints, we are still connected. We are still in relationship with those who have gone before us. And I've heard a quote before that says, grief is a price we pay for love. And love doesn't die. Love is eternal. So I've talked a lot about my grandfather, but I wanted to share more about our story. And he was really special to me. And even now, I believe God holds him, and I truly believe that he'll see me again, and I'll be with him again one day too. But I wanted to read an article I wrote recently about that grief of losing him and the trauma that that caused in our lives. And I just want you to take a moment and just go on this journey with me as I read kind of my heart out. Sirens, ambulances, coroner, body bag. The insanity of my grandfather's death blurring past me in seconds. During this chaos, the man that I would run to for security was lifeless in a coroner's van. That was too much for my 10-year-old brain to understand. My mother took me into our home and said 4 words that shot my life into a world without a grandfather. Grandpa passed away today. My mother tearfully told me. The man who had picked me up from school, take me out on his motorcycle, spend Sundays at church with, and hours with him watching Gilligan's Island and the Beverly Hillbillies on TV Land. And if I can close my eyes, I could still see and hear the Andy Griffith Show playing on a small TV in his beloved garage. I was always sitting right beside Grandpa while he was working on a car. I could feel the goosebumps of the air conditioner on my skin as I sat in his living room, always right by his side. My grandfather was my hero, and I was his little shadow. Jerome, or what friends and family called him Eugene, Topics woke up on the early hours of the morning of January 10th, 2009, as he always would. My grandfather was a skilled car mechanic, and he drove to AutoZone and came back to work on a family friend's vehicle. The cold winter chill that was outside kept me inside, and except for a brief interaction I had with him that morning, I stood inside. It was too cold for me, but did I know that that would be the last time I ever saw my grandfather? I did not get the moment in a hospital or a home watching Grandpa pass peacefully like he deserved, after a life well lived, as we expressed our deep love and admiration for him. No, Grandpa was only 54 on that dark and gloomy January day, and he died alone. My grandmother was the last person to talk to my grandpa on the phone. At 1:20 p.m., he went back to working on the car, and less than 5 minutes later, that reliable pillar of strength, that charismatic and complex old Gene's life ended the moment Grandpa's heart gave out. My father's screams echoed our home. My grandpa and father were very close. Grandpa was found by his brother, and he rushed to my parents to tell them that Grandpa was lifeless. It was a sea of destruction. There was ambulance at our home, Mom clinging to her father's lifeless body, my 2-year-old baby brother rushing out to reach our mother, and my older sister being dropped off by friends before the instant communication of cell phones to witness EMTs over Grandpa. From one second to the next, it's insane how life can change. At 1:19 p.m., he was here, planning on taking us to a car show that evening. But the next moment, Eugene Topics ceased to exist. The doorbell continuously rang. When is Mr. Eugene's funeral? This was a common question from our neighbors in Price Hill. Grandpa was a household name. He was a type of man that never put himself first. One time, at church, I saw Grandpa reach into his pocket and give all he had to a nun. He told me, "Brookie, I am saving up for us to go to heaven." I cannot bring home enough the magnitude of his loss. The empty garage that still sits with no more Andy Griffith, the eerie permanence of silence in his room, the couch that no longer had indents from Grandpa sitting on it after a long day. I remember our family poodle Molly, when she was waiting at the door for Grandpa to come upstairs every day. The blue cup still on the table from his morning Coca-Cola. Death is so permanent. The little girl that was left to navigate the rest of her life without her hero. A hole so big in her heart that died on that tragic day so long ago. Grandpa's funeral was attended by so many, my mom had to add another day of visitation. I recall moving a chair to sit by him that whole night, and I was staring at him. I remember thinking, "Grandpa, wake up, please," over and over again. My sister, brother, and I constantly reminded by well-wishers that we were his world. But he was my world too. St. William's in Price Hill has a special place in my heart. Once a week on Sundays at 7 p.m., Grandpa and I went to Mass there. He would recount memories of being a schoolboy and playing in the Fountain of the Nativity scene, and at his funeral mass, I was asked to be the reader, and I could almost see him out in the crowd, a white button-up and tan dress pants, smiling at me, like he always did when he heard me sing songs at Mass or read. And 15 years later, I found myself wandering back to that church, and I was studying the fountain, and I heard my grandpa's voice. I am waiting for you. Start saving up for heaven. And after a long time, I decided to go to Mass that Sunday, after years and years of anger at God. My grandfather loved Frank Sinatra, and I recently heard The World We Knew over and over, and the haunting vocals of Frank Sinatra transferred me through time, back to my childhood. My heart felt the pang of longing for a world that remains untouchable, belonging to the past. That inconceivable, that unbelievable world we knew, once when you walked beside me. The yearning for one last episode of those classic shows, or a motorcycle ride. How blessed I was to experience such joy. But gosh, how short it was. It is now a new grief, mourning the chance to have my grandfather here to help me as an adult. Grief doesn't fade, it transforms. It weaves itself into the quiet moments, into the background noise of life, into the things left unsaid and the milestones left unshared. I carry my grandfather with me in every moment. I wish I could call him. I still know his number. Every time I need advice only he could give. Every time I hear a Frank Sinatra song or walk past the garage. In any garage that I can smell the oil and old radios in. His absence has become a silent companion, but so has his love. Even though he is gone, his memory still gives me strength. I may not have him beside me as I grow older, but I carry him within me. In every word I write, in every Mass I now attend, and every time I reach for hope. And one day, I know I will meet him again. But until then, I'll keep saving up from heaven. Losing Grandpa so suddenly shattered something in me that I've spent years trying to piece back together. But as time passes, I've realized healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering with grace. It means finding ways to honor him in how I live, how I love, and how I persevere. He may not have been able to guide me through adulthood here in person, but in many ways he still does. Through the stories he left behind, the lessons etched into my heart, and the unwavering example of what it means to live with kindness, loyalty, and heart. His legacy will live on forever. But for now, his legacy lives on in me. Grief is the price we pay for love. As I take a moment to kind of collect my thoughts again after reading that, I find myself talking about grief and how my grandfather inspires me and inspired me back to faith, and I'm sitting in his old living room. That takes me to part 4, finding my way back to God. I'll be honest with you, I didn't, and sometimes still always don't feel this close to my faith. After my grandfather's passing, after my cousin's passing, after losing my aunt, losing my grandmother, and losing Uncle George, there have been many times where I doubted God, where I walked away, where I wasn't sure he was even listening, and if he even was real, he must not love me. And even right now, life is really hard, really, really hard. Like I mentioned, my car has been breaking down. It broke down today, and I was just trying to get to work. My family is going through a really rough time. My grandmother just got off a ventilator, and very thankfully, she's doing better now. But gosh, I have been so angry at God. And not the polite kind of angry, the real kind. The do you continue to let things happen like this kind? The kind of anger where you wonder if he even cares. And still, I can hear my grandpa's voice echoing to save up for heaven. and I find myself coming back. And I will sometimes wander off, but I always come back. Not because I always feel it, but because in the quiet, like right now, when I slow down, I know He's still there. I know He can handle my anger. I know He can handle my doubt. Grief, frustration, feeling lost. They don't push God away. They can actually be the places where He always comes closest. Maybe you're in that place too. Maybe you're angry or numb or tired. And if that's you, please hear me. God is not afraid of your honesty. You can bring Him your whole heart, even the messy parts. Grief can feel like guilt. One of the most surprising parts of grief is the guilt. The guilt when you laugh, the guilt when you feel okay for a whole day, the guilt when you start to move forward. I remember when Uncle George passed away, I didn't cry as much as I felt like I was supposed to. Losing him was kind of silent. I didn't believe it. He was around our lives so long that I just didn't know what life would be like without him. So I didn't cry as much as I wanted to. I didn't get angry. It was a silent pain that accompanies me to this day. Guilt, but joy is not betrayal, joy is healing. Jesus came so that we might have life and have it more abundantly. You can miss someone and still laugh. You can mourn and still live a beautiful life. Your grief and your joy can sit beside each other. Both are welcome because both are holy. A common theme that I keep mentioning is grief is the price you pay for love. And I once heard that grief is just love with nowhere to go. But for us, as Catholics, our love always has somewhere to go. We can offer masses for them, we can pray for them, we can talk to them, we can honor them with how we live. Something I still do is I bring the church bulletin to my grandfather's grave. I also donate in their memory. And one time I was so proud of myself, I reached out to the parish office at my grandpa's parish and I asked them to put his name in the online memory tab. I know that he would love that. So love doesn't have to end. Your love for them is still a living thing. When you light a candle, when you whisper their name in prayer, when you remember them, that's love. And God is still holding that love. So if you're grieving today, if you're angry today, if you're doubting today, know this. You are not doing it wrong. You are not broken. You are walking a sacred path, and Jesus is walking with you. Be gentle with yourself. Take the smallest step today. Your grief, your frustration, your entire messy, beautiful life, it's all safe with God. And if you'd like, I invite you to close your eyes and pray with me. Jesus, hold my heart today. Carry what I can't carry. Be near to me when the sadness feels heavy. Be patient with me when I'm angry. Remind me that I am never alone, and remind me that love is forever in you. Amen. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I will be praying for you